This conference will now be recorded.
In yesterday's session, we were discussing about the Docker, what is Docker, what is the advantages of Docker, and how to install Docker. I hope everyone is able to install Docker, right? Did you guys have one server where you guys have installed Docker? Okay, good. Now, let's understand if I am using Docker. If I am using Docker, how to deploy that application in Docker. So, how deployment works if I am using Docker. To be more clear, let's understand how we used to deploy application earlier. Whether that can be a Java based application, that can be a Python based application, or Node.js based application. That doesn't matter here. Before Docker, how we used to deploy. With Docker, how we are deploying. Let's understand so that it will be very clear for you why Docker and how Docker will work. In early 90s, as I already told, we had a physical servers where our applications are hosted and served. Like this. You had a physical servers like this. Here, on top of that server, we used to install required softwares, libraries, and we used to deploy our application. Now, later, in early 2000, right, we started using virtualized deployment. In early 2000, we had a virtual machines where our applications are hosted and served, running on top of the VMs. Virtualization started here. As I already told, in early 2013, concept of containerization came in. So using this, we can package application and its dependencies together so that whatever developer is released will work regardless of in which environment it runs. Now, before Docker, like in virtualized environment, how we used to deploy, let's say, let's assume this is our source code. This is our GitHub. The developers are committing the code to GitHub. SCM, source code management tool. The developers are pushing the code. They're pushing the code to GitHub. Now, as part of the build process, what we used to do, we will clone this code. To some server where we will build. We'll clone this code. In this build server, we will build this application package. If it is a Java application, if this is Java based application, the developers are developing that application using Java. Are we going to build Java packages like jar files, var files, er files? Yes. If it is a Node.js based application, Node.js related packages, Python related packages if it is a Python based application. Now, here, if it is a Java based application, let me take as an example. Are you going to build that package like this in the build process as part of your build process, build server? Let's consider this is one build server. This is your build server. This can be your build server or CI server. What is that CI server? CI/CD server. That can be like Jenkins server, right? As part of your Jenkins, you are building that package. So, are you going to get one package like this? Are we going to get that one package like this? Just to give an example, this can be your var file. Let's consider This is web application. This is one WAR file. Now, this is before Docker. The developer push the code to SCM. The CI, continuous integration, sees that the new code is available. It will rebuild the project, run the test cases, and generate a package like this. For future references, are we going to save this package into repositories or artifactories? For future references, right? For future requirements, you will maintain that into artifactories like Nexus, JFrog, like this. You are going to do this. Where is that one? Where it went? Okay, 1 second, somewhere here. So you push that to Nexus like this. Now, then you have a deployment servers. You have a deployment servers, your actual servers, your virtual machines here. Now, will I able to deploy this application without doing this step? We will have an operating system, that is for sure. You have an operating system in that VM. So without doing this application softwares, without configuring the required softwares and dependencies, softwares and libraries, required libraries and configurations, without doing this, will I able to deploy my application in this deployment server? No, right? This is what you guys have done already. Did you guys done this deployments already for all the applications, like whatever you guys deployed, whether it's a Node.js application, whether it's a Java application? This is what you have done already. Now, how different it is? How different it is with the containers now? How different it is with containers now? Let's take this as an example. Now, source code is there. Source code is there. Developer are committing the code to the version control systems like this. Now, with the Docker, how we used to do, let's understand. This is before Docker. Like as part of deployment, as part of build, this is what happens. As part of deployment, do I need to set up the softwares and configurations in that application servers, that machines where I want to deploy? I need to do that. Then can I download that application package? I mean to say, can I copy this application package maybe from this build servers to deployment server, or can I download from artifacts also required? Can I download from this artifacts also this required, or I can copy from this build server to here? I can download from this artifacts here and do the deployment. That is before Docker. We'll start the application. That is before Docker. What is the problems here? What is the problems here? Packaging and deploying application. Packaging and deploying application in multiple environments is a challenging job. Packaging and deploying applications in multiple environments is a challenging job. Why it is challenging job? Do I need to set up environments first before deploying an application here? Which means now this is my dev server. I deployed. Now in QA I want to deploy this application. In QA server, again, can I deploy this application as is without doing this step again in the QA server or prod server? Again, no, right? I need to again do this. I need to set up the required environment first before deploying the application. So in this, do we have challenges? Do we have problems? Application may work in one environment, which may not work in another environment. That could be for different reasons. That could be for different version of dependencies, different version of libraries, softwares. If you are wrongly configuring the environment, if you miss to set the environment variables, do you have that problem? Environment inconsistencies, compatibility issues. Yes. Now, with the Docker, how different it is. With the Docker, how different it is, let's understand. Till here, you are already done this, guys. Already you guys deployed this way only. Did you guys deployed in this way, whatever I have explained just now, right? So far, yes. Now, with the Docker, how different it is. Now, with the Docker, it is till here it is same. If it is a Java package, you will clone that code. You will create an application package here. You will clone that code. You will create an application package here. But are you going to deploy this package? If you are using Docker, are you going to deploy this package as is? No. You are going to build one more package. You are going to build one more package. What is that package? You are going to build one more package, that Docker package. The Docker package is called as Docker image. Docker image. So what we will be having as part of that image, what we are going to copy or what we are going to make sure we have in that image, we are going to make sure we are going to create an image with these two together. With these two together, we are going to create an image, Docker image, with these two together, which means your application code as well as your application code as well as the required softwares, libraries, and configurations. With this as well as your application code. Your application code. You are going to copy your application package along with your required softwares, libraries, all those things. Like this. You are going to build a Docker image. So, to build a Docker image, as I already told, what is the input for Docker image? Docker file. So, do we need to write a Docker file? The way we have a pom.xml, do I need to write a Docker file to do this image creation? Yes. We need to write a Docker file. Again, next question. Sir, who will write? Sir, as a DevOps engineer, I need to write. If I say developer will write, he will be so happy. If I say DevOps engineer, he will be so sad. Do I need to make you happy by saying developer will write? No, I'll not make you happy. Developers may not aware about what is container orchestration. They may not aware. If the developer is aware, he may write a Docker file. But if the developer is not aware, it is whose responsibility to help developer to Dockerize their applications by creating a Docker file? Who is responsible for helping the developers if they are not aware about what is Docker, how to create images, how to deploy those images? DevOps engineers, right? If everything done by the Docker developer itself, then why do they need you? Why do they need us? Why they will hire, right? So Docker file, as a DevOps engineer, developer may write, but a developer is not doesn't know anything about Docker. It's whose responsibility to help the developers to Dockerize their applications by creating a Docker files? It's a DevOps engineer. It's our responsibility. Someone is asking, sir, is Docker file and Docker client both are same? Is it same, guys? Someone is asking, Docker client and Docker file. Both are two different things. Yesterday we discussed what is client, what is Docker file. Maybe if you have not attended that session, kindly go through that recording. Even though you attended, go through the recording multiple times. You can understand. Docker file is input for creating a Docker image. What is the role of Docker client? How can I interact with the Docker? Whether I want to create a image, whether I want to create a container, whether I want to push the image, pull the image. How can I interact with the Docker? With the help of whom I can interact with the Docker so that I can create image? With whom I can interact, with the help of whom I can interact with the Docker? The Docker client. The Docker client will help us to interact with the Docker daemon so that we can do something. That can be creating a image with the help of Docker file, or that can be pushing the image to the registry, or pulling the image from registry, or creating a container out of the image. I can do that with the help of client. Client is different, Docker file is different. Now, let's take this example. Let's take this application now. You guys already deployed this application many times. But as a container, did you guys deploy it? Or directly in the traditional, that virtual deployment you deployed? That directly on the virtual, like directly on the server. Now, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to deploy this application as a container. Now, do I have a Docker file here for that application? Abhishek is asking, sir, now we install Docker on Ubuntu VM. So Docker.vm is guest OS or host OS? That is, I can call that as a host or guest. Guest I am calling because that is running on VM. That is running in the VM. But here, the Docker is installed in VM. So is that OS is host for Docker? Is that VM is host for Docker containers? So both are same. That guest is not different, host is not different. Whatever operating system which is running on that server where you are running Docker is called as a host operating system. Guys, these are like a plain English. No need to complicate things. If you think one or two times, you can understand yourself. We call it as hosting. So Docker is hosted on top of that server. Can I call that server as a host machine for Docker? Can I call the operating system of that machine as a host operating system for Docker? Just a plain English. Hosting is nothing but you are doing something on that machine. So now let's don't go out of the topics. Classes are getting deviated. So just focus on what I am saying. VMSS, you check with your manager what is VMSS. VMSS might be your project name. VMSS might be your project name. VMSS is not, it might not be a like virtualization. Check with your manager or lead what is the meaning of VMSS. That might be your project name. That VMSS doesn't mean virtual machines, right? So don't go out of the topics, focus on what I am discussing here. Otherwise, you will completely confuse. All these things, what is Kubernetes also you will learn, what is Docker Swarm also you will learn. But if you jump here and there, completely you will lose the flow. So don't go out of the topics, focus on only whatever I am discussing. So I know we will cover all these things. What is Kubernetes? What is Docker? Why Kubernetes? What is the problem with the Docker? All these things will come, but slowly. Don't jump here and there. The topics will be deviated so that you will completely lose the flow. I can answer, but you lost the flow. These things can be discussed in offline, maybe in the group, Skype group. You can discuss these things in the offline in the Skype group, but not while discussing in the classes. Ask whatever is relevant for the current topic. If I am saying container, sir, what is container? If I am saying image, sir, what is image? If I am saying Docker file, what is Docker file? If I am saying Docker client, what is client? You can ask the relevant question, but don't deviate the topics so that you will get completely confused. So let's continue here. I want to deploy this application as a container. So first of all, before creating a container, can I directly create a container without having an image for that application? No. So I need to create an image. But how can I create an image? Docker file. So is Docker file is also kind of a source code which we will maintain in the version control system, the way we are maintaining the actual source code, like your Java code, Python code, .NET code, or Node.js code. Can I call Docker file also as a source code which we will maintain in the version control system for that project, like this? The way we have a Docker file, we have a Jenkins file also. What is this Jenkins file? This is also kind of a source code. Your pipeline as a source code, your CI CD as a source code. Similarly, are we going to have a Docker file also for that project if I want to deploy that application as a container? Yes. So if this is not available, you are joining the project, that project doesn't have a Docker file, they ask you to create a Docker image for that project, for that application. Do we need to create a Docker file and commit the Docker file into the respective repository, respective SCM repository, like this? Yes. So this is already written. So by looking at this, what you can understand, guys? By looking at this, in detail we will discuss. Don't worry, what is from, what is copy, don't worry, all these things. In detail we will discuss. From Tomcat, this is my Docker file. From Tomcat. So I can call this as what? I can call this as a base image. I can call this as a base image. So from where this base image is coming? Who created this base image and from where this base image is coming? This image is available in the Docker Hub. So it has these things, guys. Any image you take, it will be in this format: registry slash repository colon tag. So this is the format of the image which you are going to tag. Now here there is no registry. What I can call this Tomcat? Can I call this as a repository? This is repository. What is this 8.0.20.jre8? Can I call this as a tag? Tag? Yes. Since I have not mentioned any registry here, in which registry or what is the default registry, or in which registry it will look for this repository and this version of the image? What is the default registry? Since I have not mentioned any registry, Docker is not a registry. Say Docker Hub. Docker is not a registry. Say Docker Hub. So Docker Hub. Docker is not a registry, right? Docker is a containerization software. So what is the default registry? Since I have not mentioned any registry details here, from which registry we will get this the image? From this repository, this tag Docker Hub. So what is Docker Hub? As I already discussed yesterday, It's a central repository managed and maintained by whom? It's a central repository managed and maintained by whom? Docker. So what do we have in this? Do we have all the public images available for software people, for IT community to use for their applications? All the public images are available as a all the public softwares are available as images for IT community. So can I use required images from here? I am searching with this one, Tomcat. So what I call this Tomcat? Can I call this Tomcat as a repository within this Docker Hub registry? Yes, Tomcat is a repository. It's an official image. And again, within this repository, do I have a multiple versions tags? Tags. Do I have multiple versions like this? As per my requirement, can I use any version of the Tomcat image? Maybe JR11 with the Tomcat, like JDK 8 with the Tomcat, all these things. Now, if required, you can type filters. Am I using one of the image which is part of that repository, Tomcat repository? This is one of the image. So this is the base image. So what I will be getting from this base image? Will I get will I get these things? Will I get these things? The required softwares and libraries, required softwares and libraries like Java software, Tomcat software, will I be getting? Then on top of that base image, what I am trying to do in the next line, it is plain English only, but I will explain later what is this copy. So what I am doing on top of this base image, we are copying that application code. We are copying that application code. We are copying the application code. So from where we are copying this application code? As part of the build process, did you created this package by executing mvn clean package? Did you created this package as part of your build process by executing this command? So will it be part of this server in this directory in the current folder? Will it be part of this target directory in this server where you build this package? So I clone that project. I have a Docker file is also part of this one. I have a Docker file is also part of this code. Now can I execute some Docker command by installing Docker in this build server? By installing Docker in this build server, can I build that image? I will explain all these commands slowly, but understand the concept or flow. Understand the concept or flow. I will explain these commands later. Now can I execute some command like this Docker build command by building my image name? So what this build command will expect? What is the input for this build command, a Docker build command? What is the input? Container. Huh? Input for Docker build is container. No, guys. Docker file. So it's already part of my source code. Does the Docker file will be part of my directory where I am executing this command? In the server where I am executing this command? Yes. So what is the default name of Docker file? What is the default name for Docker file? What is the default name for Docker file? Docker file. D caps Docker file. D caps F small. D caps F small. This is the default name. Do we have any extension for this file? Like .sh, .java, .xml, .yml like that? No. There is no extension. And do we need to use any programmatic language or scripting language to write a Docker file? Is Docker file will be written using any programmatic language or scripting language like shell script, Python script or anything? No. It's a plain text file. It's a plain text file without any extension. So this build command, will it send this Docker file, whatever is part of the current directory where I'm executing this command, will it send this Docker file to the Docker daemon? Docker daemon? Yes. Then does the Docker daemon will process the Docker file and create an image like this? That image will have application code as well as your softwares. Application code as well as your softwares. Now I will get this image. Now I have a deployment server. I get this image. I executed this build command. I got the image here. Now I have a deployment server. In this deployment server, I have some operating system. Do I need to do this step? If I am using Docker, if I am using container, do I need to do this step? This one? Do I need to do this step here? Not required. Because I already have a package. I already have a package which contains the application code as well as required software dependencies, everything. Now, to run this package in this deployment server, what is the software which is required in this deployment server? What is the only software which is required in this deployment server? The Docker software. Now I have a Docker software here, but my image is in different location, different server. If this image is not part of this server, will I able to create a container? Will I able to create a container? Container is nothing but runtime instance. Runtime instance. Runtime instance of image is called as container, which means the moment I create a container, does it mean the process, the Tomcat process, that application process, will it be started the moment I create a container? Does that application will be started? That process will be started? Yes. But my image is there in a different server. Then if here, will I able to create a container without image having in this Docker server? No. Then how can I move the images? How can I move the images? Whatever I have created here, I want to deploy here using registries concept. Using registry concept, we can do that. We can registries concept, we can do that. But you may have a question, sir, why we will not create container in the same server? Why we are creating or why we are deploying in different servers? As I already told, in real time, are you going to build and deploy in same server? No, right? Build happens in a different server, deployment happens in a different server. Let's take Jenkins. You are building your application as Jenkins. You are deploying your application using Jenkins. Does it mean your application is running inside Jenkins? You are building using Jenkins. You are deploying using Jenkins. But is Jenkins is deploying that application in same server where Jenkins is running? No, in a different servers. Similarly, I created image here. I will not create a container here. I'll create a container in actual servers where I want to deploy my application. Now, can I use registry concept here? Because this is not a normal file. This is not a normal file. It is not like one file like var, jar, tar. It's a multiple layers of a file, files. So it's not like a normal file. If it is a normal file like tar file, zip file, var file, can I SCP this file, this image? I can do that. But this is not a normal tar file, var file, jar file. It's a layers of multiple files. Image is basically multiple layers. So I cannot SCP as is. So what concept we are using? Are we using a concept of registry here? Registry here? Yes. So from this server, can I execute some command which will push the image to this registry again using Docker commands only? Docker push. I will give that image tag. I will give that image tag. So while building the image, can I tag with which registry, with which repository, what version can I tag while building the image? Something like this. My registry details. This can be ECR, this can be GCR, this can be Nexus or JFrog. Within that registry, can I give the repository name? In which repository I want to store that? And also, can I give the tag like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that? Yes. So I created an image using this tag. What is this -t stands here, guys? What is this -t stands here? Tag. You are tagging image with this registry. You are tagging image with some registry. Does this registry can be Nexus? Does this registry can be JFrog? Does this registry can be ECR, GCR, Nexus, whatever it is? Yes. Within that registry, in which repository? What is the tag? I tag that one. Now when I execute that command, docker push, by giving that whatever tag I used to build the image, does docker knows to which registry it has to push, under that registry which repository it has to push? Does docker knows? Because while building the image itself, we tagged exact location where it has to store that, where it has to push that. So does image will go and sit in that registry based on the tag whatever I used while building the image? It will go and sit in that registry, that image. Now here in this server, can I pull that image by executing docker command again, docker pull that image tag. So that this docker, does this docker knows from which registry, from which repository it has to pull, because that image itself has all the details, in which registry, which repository, what tag it has to pull. So does image will come and sit in this server by executing docker pull command in this server? Now I have an image. Now can I run this image to create a container now? Can I run this image to create a container? The moment I create a container, does this container will have Tomcat process or that Java process up and running? And also, do you have that var file also part of that web apps folder inside this container? Which means, does my application will be up and running as a container here now, the moment I create a container? Now, in any other server, maybe in a different server, also I want to deploy. Again, can I just create a container out of that image? This might be your dev server. This might be your QA server. This might be your dev server. This might be your QA server. This is your dev environment. Let's say this is your QA environment. In any server, in any environment, again, can I just pull the image and create a container in this server also? So if it works in one environment, if that application is working in one environment, will it work in another environment? Because same versions of software, same versions of libraries, same configurations and same application code. So will it simplify the process of deploying, updating, releasing our applications as a containers? At the same time, can I deploy multiple applications? Let's say I have one more application. Can I deploy that application also on its own Java process, on its own Tomcat process within the container? Another container. Let's say one more Java application is there. Again, this application also, can I create a Docker image with the help of Docker file for this project? Here, can I use different version of the Tomcat, different version of the Java based on the requirement of this application? If required, can I use Tomcat 9 for this application instead of Tomcat 8? If required, can I use Tomcat 9? Yes. Then if I create an image again for this application, again, can I pull that image and create a container in the server, same server? Tomcat 9 will be there, maybe Java 8 or 11, whatever it is. This container may be Tomcat 8, Java 8, something like this. Now, can I deploy multiple applications? Can I deploy multiple applications as a containers in the same Docker server? Yes. Now, is this process, is this Java process, is this Tomcat process is also isolated from this Tomcat process and Java process? Yes. Now, if something goes wrong with this Java process or Tomcat process or that application, will it impact this application, this container? No. Now, anytime there is a change in this code for that application, anytime there is a change in this code for that application, developer modified, can I do the same process again? I will get the latest code, I'll create a new application package, then I'll create a new Docker image with a different tag. I'll create a new Docker image with the different tag. Then I will push that image. Now, can I delete the old container which is created using old version of the image? Can I create a new container with a new version of the code, that new image? So does my new code will be again deployed here as a container? Yes. But while doing this thing, will it impact other application, other container? No. So this is how we can use Docker. This is how we can use Docker. And again, in the production environment, again, can I delete old container which is created using old image? Can I deploy the latest container using latest image? If it works in one environment, it should work in another environment. Is Docker is isolating your applications from underlying infrastructure? Can I run these images wherever Docker is running? That can be your local laptop, that can be actual dev server, production server, QA server. Yes. Now, instead of doing all these things manually, if required, can I write a CI pipeline, CD pipeline using Jenkins also? Instead of manually creating a Docker image, instead of manually pushing the Docker image to registries, instead of manually creating a containers in the deployment server, can I have all these things as a stages or steps in my pipeline so that whenever there is a change, whenever there is a change in the code, does Jenkins does all these things, creating a Docker images, pushing the Docker images, and also deploying those images as a containers in your deployment servers? Can I have all these things, whatever I am doing manually? Same things will go as a stages or steps. So if you know how we can do manually, automating will be a complex job, guys. Do you think Jenkins pipelines, writing a Jenkins pipelines will be a complex job if you know how we are doing manually? Same thing, you will go and keep it in a pipeline. This has one stage or step. This has one stage, one step. This is another stage in your pipeline. This is another stage in your pipeline. This is another stage in your pipeline. Using some plugins, using some plugins like SSH agent plugin, does Jenkins can connect to this server programmatically using SSH agent? Can they execute? Can Jenkins can execute whatever commands it has to execute in this deployment server to pull the image and create a container in this deployment server? Programmatically, it can connect using any plugins like SSH agent and execute whatever commands I am manually executing. So this is how it works. Now, let me do this. Now let me deploy the first application as a container. Let me deploy first application as a container. Now I want to Dockerize this application. As I already told, what is the meaning of Dockerization or containerization? Yesterday I told what is the meaning of Dockerization or containerization of the applications, which means we are going to deploy that applications as containers. We are going to build and we are going to deploy that applications as containers. Can I call that concept as Dockerization or containerization? building that application and deploying that application as a container? Can I call that process as a Dockerization or containerization? Sometimes in the interview they'll ask, did you deployed any application as containers? Or they may ask, did you Dockerized? Did you Dockerized or did you containerized any application? Both are same. Both are not two different things. Sometimes in the interview they'll ask, did you deployed any application as a container? And they may ask a different way. Did you Dockerized? Did you containerized any application? Is both are two different things? No, both are same. Now, let me do this. I want to deploy this application as a container. Now, I have a source code. If this is not there, can I write this? I can clone this to my local laptop as a developer, or as a DevOps guy, I can clone this to my local laptop using any IDE, like maybe if the developers, anyone from Java development background? So the Java, there are IDEs like Eclipse, STS, Spring Tool Suite, and also IntelliJ. These are the IDEs for writing the Java code. And also I can use Microsoft Visio also if required. If required, I can use Microsoft Visual Studio Code. IDEs. So I can clone to my IDE that code base. I can clone that to some location in my laptop. Then if that file doesn't part of the code base, can I create a Docker file, and as per the requirement, can I create a Docker file? Let's say this Docker file is not there. Let's consider this is not there. Can I create a Docker file, and as per the requirement, can I write a Docker file, and can I commit that? Can I commit that changes to my SCM tool? I can commit the changes to my SCM tool, right? So you can use IDEs. As a DevOps engineer also, we will use IDEs. As a DevOps engineer also, can you use IDEs like this Visual Studio Code to write some kind of a Docker files, Docker compose files, or Kubernetes manifest files, or Ansible playbooks, or Jenkins files also? Like this, can I write a Jenkins file also as per my requirement in using these IDEs, and can I commit from these IDEs? Yes, right. As a DevOps engineer also, we'll use IDEs like this. Now this I have already written. Here we will have a plugins, guys. You will have a plugins. Suppose I modified something here, it will show, right? If some file is modified, let's say I have modified something. Let's say this plugins will show the changes, what files you have modified, like this. Now, if required, I can add modified something like this. I can click on this button. It will commit locally. If I click on this button, it will in the background same commands, git commit, git push will happen. Instead of you are executing the commands, when I'm clicking these options, is this Visual Studio Code is going to do that git commit, git push, all those things in the background? Yes. So this is what IDE, integrated development environments, right? You can use IDEs also. But if you are not familiar using IDEs, can you go and use CMD, command prompts, git clone in command prompt, open in notepad, and modify the changes, and again git add in the command prompt, git push in the command prompt? You can do that one also. But command prompts, and that is not going to give, it will not improve the productivity for developers and DevOps engineers. But if I use these IDEs, will the productivity of developer, will the productivity of DevOps engineer will improve? Because these IDEs will have lot of plugins. It will have, it will auto generate some code snippets. It will auto generate some code snippets you can modify based on your requirement also. So that is how this IDEs work, which doesn't this doesn't related to Docker. Just I thought of explaining IDEs because we will use IDEs regularly as a DevOps engineer also. Now I modified that and I committed, let's say. Now this code, can I clone in my CA part build server? Now let's start doing that. Let's start building that application first. Now let's consider this as a build server. Let's consider this as a build server. That can be your Jenkins server also. That can be your Jenkins server also. Let's consider this as a build server. What is the software which is already installed in this machine already? What is the software which is already installed in this machine? Only Docker is installed. Docker is installed. This can be your Jenkins server also. Docker is already installed. So since I already have a Docker installed in this machine, will I able to do this? This Docker build, Docker push, will I able to do this from that server? Yes. Let me do that. I am treating that as a CI server, build server. Let me connect to that one. Guys, if you understand what I am explaining today, you can Dockerize any application. You can understand the Docker concept clearly and why Docker is used. If I am using Docker, how I can build and how I can deploy any application as a container, right? Now I connected to this server. Now can I clone this code? I am doing it manually, but can I have all these things as a pipeline and run this as a pipeline also if required? Yes, but I am doing it manually. So I am cloning this code. I am cloning this code. So I got this code base. Let me go inside that code base. I went inside that folder, that code. So do I have a source code like Java code and a build script for Java like pom.xml and everything? Yes. Now I have a Docker file. Now I have a Docker file also. Using this Docker file, can I create a Docker image also? We can do that. But here, am I expecting this folder and this file to be part of the build context, Docker build context from where I am going to build the image? Because I am trying to copy this file from build context to the image. What is the meaning of build context? From the folder you are building the image. From which folder you are trying to build the image? In that folder, do we have this? Do we need to have this file? Without having this file, if I directly build the image, does image will be created successfully using Docker build? I am building the image like this. Now, do I need to have this one from the build context from where you are building the image? Yes. Let me show that it will throw error. While building, do I need to tag with proper registry, repository? Yes. If I give like this, does Docker can understand to which registry, to which repository it has to push when I am executing Docker push command? Will it able to understand to which registry, which repository it has to push when I execute Docker push? No, it doesn't have any detail. I need to give a proper registry details. For now, I will use Docker Hub. For now, I will use Docker Hub as a registry. If required, can I create my own registry in the Docker Hub also? If required, can we create my own registry in the Docker Hub also? Yes. How we can create a registry in the Docker Hub, our own registry? Let me show you. How to create a registry in the Docker Hub, your own registry. So this is website hub.docker.com. So here there is an option called register. Can I create a registry by creating an account in the Docker Hub using this link? I pasted that link, guys. hub.docker.com/signup. I want everyone to create a registry in the Docker Hub. I want everyone to create a registry in the Docker Hub. Now, you no need to provide any debit card details, credit card details. They are not going to ask you debit card, credit card, any details. What is the minimal fields it is expecting? Email address, password, and ID. Only 3 fields are expected. So what is this ID? This ID is nothing but your registry. This ID is nothing but registry. I already created something like this. This is my registry in the Docker Hub. This is my registry in the Docker Hub. I already created with my details, my mail ID, my mail ID, my mail ID. And this is not your password of this email. This is not the password of your email. This is password of your registry. What password you want to set? What password you want to set for that registry? So ID like this, your email ID, give valid email ID, and password of your choice, whatever password you want to give. So like this, you can agree for these terms and conditions, and you can do all these things, right? This is nothing to do with the Docker. Now you click on this sign up button, it will register. But why I am getting this username already taken? Because I already created a registry with this name. It's already existed. When you guys are creating, you can give whatever. Maybe just to give an example, something like this. Krishna Prasad, Docker, something like this. Docker registry or Docker rig like this. If this is available, then Krishna Prasad, this is the registry for him. So for now, I am demonstrating with this Docker Hub registry. Later, I will show how to use ECR also. Once you are familiar with the Docker, later I will show how to create registries in ECR, repositories in ECR. We will discuss later. For now, we are using Docker Hub. But in real time, are you going to build and push images to this Docker Hub public registries, your actual applications into the public registries like Docker Hub? No, we will not do that. For now, we will use Docker Hub. Once you do this, you will get a one email to whatever email ID you have given here. Once you do this step, you will get an email to whatever mail ID you have given here. You need to log into that mail ID and you need to accept the terms and conditions. You read that mail and click on that accept terms and conditions and all those things. Read that mail and as per the instructions, you complete the registration. Once that is done, can I use this as a registry while tagging the image? Something like this, when I am building the image, can I use that as a registry? Like that. This is my registry name, just to give an example. Then, can I use some name? You no need to manually create a repository. You no need to manually create a repository in that one. So, while pushing, does this repository will be created automatically in this registry? In this registry, does this repository will be created automatically when you are pushing? Yes. Then tag, can I give tag like this, colon 1 2 3, whatever it is, like this. Now I already have a registry like this, Docker hands-on. This is my registry name. So do I already have a registry with that name? Let me show you. Yes. So I already have a registry. So I am able to log into my registry in the Docker Hub using that name. This is my registry. With my password, I am logging in. With password I am logging in. In this registry, I already have a lot of repositories. You no need to come and manually create a repository like this. This is repository, right? You no need to come here, log in and click on this create repository with that name. You no need to manually do this. When you are pushing that image, does it will be done automatically? When you are pushing that image, does this repository will be created if it is not already there in that registry? Yes. You no need to manually create. So it will automatically created. Now this is my registry. I am giving this as a repository name. This is the tag. Again, one more important interview question. If I don't mention the tag, I mean to say this section, what is the default tag Docker will use? With what tag Docker will tag the image? If I don't mention this section, the last section, whatever it is part of colon, if I don't mention this one, this I call it as a tag. If I don't mention this one, what is the default one? What is the default tag Docker will use? With what tag Docker will tag? In the interview also they'll ask. It will tag as like this, latest. If I don't mention this one, is image will be tagged like this? Is image will be tagged like this? If I don't mention, does image will be tagged like this? While building also, if I don't give, it will be tagged like this. Suppose while pushing also, if I don't give, will it try to push image whatever is having a tag with this one? If I do like this, yes. But you don't have an image with this tag. You don't have an image with this tag. You have an image with a different tag. Then does this push command works? No, not only push. When you are pulling also, you don't mention this tag. Let's say, does with this tag, do we need to have image in this repository? In this repository, do we need to have an image with this tag in this repository, in this registry? Yes. So if you don't have the image with this tag, is it going to throw error when you are pulling also? Yes. Suppose I have an image like this. Just to give an example, I have image like this. Just one to one. This is the tags of that image. 1, 22, 21, 20 like this. Now I executed Docker pull. Is that repository has that tag with colon latest here? If you see, this is my repository. Do I have that image with colon latest? No. So will it throw error? Saying that image doesn't exist? Yes. Guys, that colon latest don't consider this one as a latest, maybe 22 as a latest. No, don't consider that way. So it is going to expect an image with the tag latest. This is not latest. This is different tag. So what is the default tag in any command which you are not mentioning the tag? What is the default tag it will consider, guys? Colon latest. Now if required, I can give like this. If required, I can give like this. Now this is the command to build the image. So just I am giving a syntax: docker build -t your image tag build context. What is this Docker? We call it as a Docker build context. Docker build context or build context, both are same. What is the meaning of this build context? What is build context, or what is the meaning of this build context? From which directory or folder we are building the image. We are building the image. So let's say I want to copy some files to the image. Does those files should be part of the build context? In my Docker file, I have used something like this. In my Docker file, I use something like this, copy this one. So does this file should be part of my build context? If this file is not part of my build context, again, does Docker daemon will be able to copy file if it is not part of build context? No. So build context is nothing but a folder or directory from where we are building the image. So all the files and folders which are part of build context will be sent to whom? Docker. It will be sent to whom? Docker daemon. By whom? By whom? By client. By client. Now it will send all the files whatever is part of build context. But in Docker file, I have an instruction like this. So does Docker file has instruction like this? Does Docker daemon will copy only this file by ignoring other files? Because Docker file has only this instruction. Will it copy only this file to the image by ignoring other files, even though CLI is sending all the folders files which is part of build context? Yes. So this way it will copy. Now, most of the cases you see something like this. Most of the cases you see something like this. This is your image tag space dot. What is the meaning of dot? What is the meaning of dot? Current directory. Current directory. Instead of giving dot, can I give the folder path also? Something like this. Can I give the folder path also? Something like this. That folder path also, from where I want to build that image, can I give that folder path? If this folder is part of your home directory, something else like this? Yes. But most of the cases, 99% of the cases, what do you see? In the command dot. What the dot represents? What the dot represents? Current directory. So now, what is the default Docker file name it will expect? This command will expect what is the default name Docker file? Dcaps f small Docker file. Suppose I have a Docker file with custom name. Suppose I have a Docker file with custom name. Then what option I can use? Docker file with a different name instead of default name. What option I can use? I can use one more option called -f. -f, that file name. That file name. So what is -f stands here? File. -f stands for file. So that file name I can give. So can we have a Docker file with the custom name? Custom name in the sense, instead of default name, can I have with a different name? Yes. Similarly, palm.xml, guys. What is the default name of that Maven build script file? What is the default name of that Maven build script file? Palm.xml. Can I have a palm, that file with a different name instead of palm.xml? Can I have a file with a different name also if required? Yes. If it is a different name, again, what is the option I need to use with MVN when I am executing MVN clean package, MVN clean deploy? I need to use a -f option there also. Something like that. So sometimes in the interview also they'll ask, can we have a Docker file with the custom name? I mean to say different name instead of default name. Yes. If that is the case, what is the option we have to use to build the image out of that custom name? -f. Now, here I am in this folder. Do I have a Docker file with that default name in that current directory? Do I have a Docker file with the default name? So I am saying Docker build -t. This is required. What is this, guys? This Docker hands-on. Wherever you see Docker hands-on, what does it mean? This is registry name. But this is whose registry? This is my registry. This is my registry. But when you guys are building the images, don't use this registry name. Why? Why you should not use this registry name? Because do you know what is the password of my registry when you are pushing the image? Will you able to authenticate? Do you know what is the username of this I mean to say, what is the password for this registry? Will you able to authenticate before pushing? Will you able to authenticate with this registry? Because you don't know my password, right? So that's why when you are when you are practicing, first create a registry like this. The way I already explained, create a registry like that. Then will you able to use that registry name instead of using this Docker hands-on? Because you know what is your password. Then once this registry is done, what is the next section after that forward slash? What we are going to give? That is your repository name. Something like this. Can I give anything like this also? Maven web app like this also, or can I give ABC also? Yes, but meaningful name. If you give ABC, does anyone can understand this repository is holding what application images? Does anyone can understand that this repository is holding what application images? No, right? So give some meaningful name. I'm giving something like this. This is also fine, or this is also fine, something like this. What is this? After colon, what is this? Let me give like this, maven-web application. What is this? Colon tag. Then space. People are doing mistakes. You are giving dot like this. Will it work? Will it work? People are doing mistakes like this. Will it work? There should be a space, then dot. As I already told, dot. What this dot represent? Current directory. That current directory is nothing but what? Your build context. So the current directory is your build context. So does Docker CLI will send all the files folders which is part of that build context to the daemon for creating a image? Yes. Now I can give dot. If required, can I give this folder path also like this? Not only dot, can I give this folder path also like this? If required, instead of giving dot, can I give like this also? Yes. People are doing mistakes like this. They are not giving dots. They are not giving dot, or they are not giving folder path. Will it throw error? If I execute like this, I am not giving that build context. Do you see this error? This Docker build requires exactly one argument. So what is this? What is missing? What argument is missing? Is build context is missing? From which context it has to build? That build context can be, I can give like this dot, or I can give the folder path also. From which folder you want to build the image? The dot is missing. Now I am giving a dot, but in my build context, do I have that target folder and that var file already created to create an image? No. So this time will it throw error if I am directly building like this? Now you see, what is the meaning of this first line? Sending build context to Docker daemon. What is happening? What it is sending? Sending build context to Docker daemon. What is this? What is this? The first line it is saying sending build context to Docker daemon, which means is Docker CLI is sending all the files which is part of that build context, which is part of that folder to the Docker daemon. Yes. Next, the Docker file. Docker file is also part of that one. So is Docker file is used by Docker daemon to create the image? Yes. So What does it mean? From Tomcat 8.0 something, what it is doing? What it is doing? Someone is saying it is installing Tomcat. Is it installing Tomcat? Is it installing Tomcat here? It is not installing the Tomcat. It is just pulling that base image. It is just pulling that base image. So what I will be getting from that base image? Will I get Tomcat and Java software from that base image? Yes. Then once that image is pulled, once that base image is pulled, the second line, on top of that base image, am I trying to copy the var file to this location in the base image? Yes. But is image created successfully? Is image created successfully? What it is saying? What it is saying? No source file were specified. Why it is saying no source file were specified? This should be part of your build context. This should be part of your build context. That is your current directory. So do I have this folder first of all, the target folder, first of all in the build context? Do you see? Do you have a target folder? No. And do you have this var file? First of all, that folder itself is not there, var file is not there. So I am using star. What is the meaning of star here? Regular expression. Anything after that, I am least bothered. What is there after that maven web app? That can be 1.0 or 2.0 or 3.0, that var file, anything, regular expression. Now that is not there. So which means, do I need to build this application? Do I need to build this application first? Do I need to do this one, mvn clean package? But as of now, do I have a Maven software and Java software in this server? In the server I am talking. Do I have a Maven software? Do I have a Java software? This is your build server. Build server. Do I have a Maven? Do I have a Java? No. So this can be installed in many ways. I am not again opening Mithun Technologies website, that blog to install. Installation can be done in many ways. Can I do this way? Can I do this way? Sudo apt install. What is this apt? What is this apt? It's a package manager for Ubuntu, because it's what type of OS? It's what type of OS? Ubuntu. So I am just installing Maven like this. Maven is depends on Java. Does package manager will install Java also along with Maven? Because it has a dependent package, so it will install both. This is just an installation. If you don't like to install the Java software, Maven software this way, will you able to install on your own? Maybe downloading zip file of Maven, downloading tar file of Java, set the environment variables. That doesn't matter here. That doesn't matter here. You can use user data also while creating a server itself. That doesn't matter here. I need a software, that's it. Now, do I have a Maven software now in this system? This is my build server. And do I have a Java software also in this system? Now, will I able to create my application package first like this, mvn clean package here? And again, what people are doing the mistake, right? What they are doing, they are executing these commands outside. This mvn clean package they are executing outside. I observe all these mistakes, right? That's what I am saying. I observe all these mistakes when you guys are practicing. When Bhaskar sir were teaching, when Bhaskar sir was teaching Maven, I was also part of the group from day one. I was just observing what how people are doing, what mistakes they are doing. So they clone this code, then directly executing like this. Will it work here? This mvn clean package. So what is required for this command? What is required for this command? What maven will look? Pom.xml. So do we have a pom.xml in this directory? In the current directory? If you see it is throwing error, the goal you specified requires a project to execute, but no pom.xml. So don't do that way. So I am inside this one. I am inside this folder. Now, can I execute this command mvn clean package? So using that pom.xml, it will build the application package. For the first time it is doing, will it take some time to download the maven dependencies from central server, I mean to say central repository to local repository? So what is the local repository in maven? Which location? What is the local repository? .m2 for the first time. So let's leave it for some time. Let's leave it for some time. It will take maybe 2-3 minutes also for the first time. Guys, concept is important. The commands you can automatically understand, you can automatically learn if you are good at concept. So what is Docker, how Docker is working? If you know the commands, you can automatically learn yourself. So don't focus on what order I am executing the commands. People are learning this way. Balaji sir is executing this command first. They will learn like this. This command is executed first, then this command is executed next, this command is executed next. Step 1 do this, step 2 do this. Don't learn that way. Understand the concept. The steps can be anything. Tomorrow you might get a requirement with different steps, different use cases. If you blindly follow these steps, does that this step 1 approach, step 2 approach will help you in the actual requirement? No. But if you know the concept, do you know how to implement that step or stage? Yes. So focus on the concepts rather than commands. Commands also important, but I am not saying commands are not important. Commands also important, but which one is more priority compared to the commands? Actual concept is important. Without knowing the concept, if you just by heart the commands, it will not help. Without knowing the actual concept, if you just only know the commands and blindly executing the commands, that is waste of time. In actual applications, you may get a different errors, different issues once you get into a project. If you know only commands, will you be able to troubleshoot and fix the problem if something is not working? No. But if you know the concept, will you be able to identify the root cause of that issue? Will you be able to troubleshoot and fix the issue if you know the concept? Yes. So how you will get that confidence? That only by practicing more and more. You do lot of hands-on, lot of practice, then you will get all that confidence and how to troubleshoot, how to automate. The more practice, that is where you will get the confidence. Guys, you do something on your own and you will have a different feeling in your heart. Even I am 13 years experience in IT, but if I do something on my own today also, I feel little proud myself. But if I do something someone is already done, it is like copy paste only. So that confidence, that interest will come the more you practice. That interest, that enthusiasm, that confidence also will get the more you practice. That's why we are saying from day one, practice, do the assignments, do the labs, do the practice more. Now my application package is created. So do I have that var file like this in the target folder in my this folder? Now when I build this, when I am executing this docker build command from this directory, is it going to send all the files, not only this folder, all other files also will be sent to the build context? Yes. But as per my docker file, is it going to copy all the folders, all the files which is part of my build context as per my docker file instruction? No. Is it going to copy only the target folder var file? Within the target folder this var file? Yes. Now, is my image created successfully? Is my image tagged also successfully with this registry, with this repository, with this tag? Now, how to see the images locally? How to see the images available in locally? What command can be used? There is a command called docker images. Is it showing the images available in the local registry? Docker also has a concept of local registry. Docker also has a concept of local registry. Sometimes in the interview also they'll ask one question. What is working directory of Docker? What is working directory of Docker? The way we have a working directory of Jenkins. What is the working directory of Jenkins? The way you have a working directory of Jenkins, we have a working directory for Docker also. So for working directory of Docker is this. Let me show you. Var lib, which one? Docker. Var lib Docker. Now this can be identified using this one also, guys. You can execute one command called docker info. You execute one command called docker info. So is that information will be displayed here, complete docker information of that here, how many containers are there, how many images are there, and what version of operating system, what version of kernel, what version of operating system. And here if you see, what is the docker working directory or docker root directory? If you see, var lib docker. So here this is the working directory, var lib docker. Within this directory, do I have some other folders like image folder, containers folder, volumes folder, next network folder? Is images is locally stored in this working directory? Is these images are stored, whatever images we have built or we pulled to this server, is those images is part of this working directory? Yes. So there is a one more folder called image, but this image is maintained in a different format. Like we have some folders like this. It has some layers information. Image is all about layers. Actually, all those layers is part of this directory. We have a one more directory here, overlay. So this is one layer, this is one layer. All these layers forms a images. So these images are cached locally in the working directory. Do we have a local registry concept also in the Docker? Yes. So if that image is already part of local registry, if I try to pull again will it pull? No, right? That image is already part of that one, so it will not pull again. So how to see the images actually? It's not a file, it's multiple layers of file. If I do any ls like this, will I able to see any file, image related files like this? If I do normal ls, like this, will I able to see anything related to images here? No. So how to see the images? Nothing is there, sir. ls-la, I am using this la only. ls-la. Do I have anything related to those images here? No. So how to see the images which is part of locally? Docker images. So how many images is part of this server locally? As of now, 2. Actually two. This is one image, this is another image, two images. But why two images? This image, did I use this image as a base image in my Docker file? Did I use this image as a base image in my Docker file? Yes. So what is the size of this base image? If you understand, what is the size of this base image? 493 MB. What will be part of that image? What will be part of that 493 MB in size? What layers will be part of that base image? Will I have a Java? Will I have a Tomcat? Will I have some Linux libraries to interact with kernel? All those things? Yes. Then using this base image, I built my own image by executing this command, docker build command. By executing this docker build command, I built this own image. So what is the size of our own image which we built on top of that base image? 498 MB in size. What is there in that 5 MB, guys? What is that 5 MB additional size? What is that additional size of that 5 MB? Instead of saying var file, I can say application code. Instead of saying var file, I can say app package, application package, or application code. So now wherever I create a container out of this image, does my application will be up and running along with my softwares like Java, Tomcat? Yes. Now this image is part of this server locally, but I want to deploy in a different server. What needs to be done now? What needs to be done? That image is part of local registry. What needs to be done now? I need to push the image to registry. So what is the command? What is the command I can use so that the Docker daemon will try to push the image? Docker push. While pushing, do I need to give all these things? Repository, with which repository, with registry tagged, and also tag colon 1. This is the tag colon 1. Do I need to give dot here for Docker push? Not required. Dot is not required for all the commands. That is only for which option? That is only for which option? That is only for building the images. Not people are saying only Docker file. No, that is not answer, Srinivas. That is the build context is we are using dot while building the image, while building the Docker file. Wrong answer. Krishna Prasad is saying while building the Docker file we are using data. Are we building the Docker file? Are we building the image? We are building the image. But are we writing the Docker file? Are we writing the Docker file? Yes. We are writing the Docker file. With that Docker file, we are building the image. Now, while pushing, I no need to give anything. Let me execute this. Does Docker knows to which registry, to which repository it has to push this image? All the layers of this image, to which registry, which repository it has to push? Does Docker knows now? Yes. Now I will be getting one error. What is this error? What is this error? Requested access to the resource is denied. What does it mean? Authentication. Even though it's a public registry, do I need to authenticate to push the images? How can I authenticate? Maybe in the if it is a Nexus in a palm.xml, if it is a Maven repository, Maven package, if it is a Maven package, Maven repository, how you authenticated, right? You have given your usernames and passwords in palm.xml or maybe settings.xml like that. You have given palm.xml or settings.xml your Nexus details. If it is a Maven repository, Maven package, but is this a Maven package or is it a Docker package? Whatever I am trying to push, it's a Docker package. So how can I authenticate with Docker registries? How can I authenticate with Docker registries? There is a command for that. There is a command for that. What is that command? Docker login. Docker login. So using this Docker login, will I able to authenticate with the Docker registries? That can be Nexus, that can be JFrog, that can be ECR, GCR, anything, any registry. So these are the options. -u, username, -u, username, -p, password, and your registry details. Only registry URL or registry details. So if it is a Docker hub, do I need to mention registry URL here? By default, if I don't mention this registry URL, with which registry Docker will try to authenticate? With this username, with this password, with which registry it will authenticate? Docker hub. But if it is a Nexus or JFrog, do I need to give that Nexus URL where Nexus is running? Something like this, just to give an example. Something like this. Nexus, not all the details. You no need to give this repository details. You no need to give repository and tag details. Only registry details while authenticating. Since I tagged with Docker Hub, is this URL is mandatory? Is that registry URL is mandatory? No. Now I can simply execute Docker login -u. What is my Docker Hub username? This registry name itself is my user name. -p, my password, like this. If I don't want to reveal this password, I will not use -p. Will it ask me to type a password interactively? If I press enter now, will it ask me to type a password interactively? Yes. But if I use -p, do I need any human intervention here to authenticate? Not required. But I don't want to reveal my password. That's why I'm not using -p. Let me press enter. Is it asking me to type a password interactively? That Docker Hub password. So I am authenticating. So by default, it has authenticated with Docker registry, Docker Hub. Login is successful. So which means Docker daemon is authenticated with the Docker registry. Now, if I execute this push command, is that image will be pushed to the registry because it has all the details, registry, repository. So what is this? When I am pushing image, it is saying this one pushing, this one pushing, this one pushing, like that. What is all these things? These are the layers of those images, Okay. So we will discuss more later. We will discuss this, what is layer, all these things we will discuss later when we go for a Docker file. Now is my image is pushed now from this build server. From this build server is the image went to registry now. In deployment server, let's say I have one more server here. Let me create one more server. I want to treat that as a deployment server. I am creating one more server, Ubuntu server. In the default VPC, I am just creating a server. Now in this server, can I deploy that image as a container so that my application will be up and running in that server as a container in this server? But what is the only software now which is required in this server? Do I need to install Java separately? Do I need to install Tomcat separately, like that? Not required. Only Docker. Because without a Docker daemon, will I able to create a containers? No. Any Docker, whether you want to create image, whether you want to pull the image, push the image, whether you want to create a container, delete the container, do we need a Docker software in that server, in whatever server you want to do? Yes. Now once this server is ready, can I execute some command so that it will pull the image and create a container in this server? Can I execute some command which will pull the image and create a container? Yes. So what is the command? What is the command I can execute? If I want to only pull the image, can I execute this command? If I want to only pull the image, I don't want to create a container, can I execute this command? It will just pull the image. It will just pull the image, but does container will be created? Does application will be deployed up and running? If I do this, no. It will only pull the image. Can I directly do one more thing? Docker run command. Docker run command. I can use Docker run command with whatever options, with that image details. So if I execute like this, just to give an example, container name, I can give any name, some meaningful name. If I give like this, even though this image is not part of that server where I am executing this command, does Docker will internally do this? Does Docker will internally pull this image first to create a container? Yes. I no need to explicitly do this. It will try to create a container. If this image is not there locally in that server, does this Docker will pull the image first to create a container? Yes. It will pull the image as well as it will create the container. Now, I will use one more option here. What is this option? I will explain tomorrow because we are already running out of time. What is this option? I will explain tomorrow. In high level, let me tell you, this -p stands for port publish. Port publish, or we call it as a port mapping. So why we need to do this? If I don't do this, what will happen? We will discuss tomorrow. For now, just do like this. For now, just do like this. When you are practicing, maybe today, if you are practicing today, just do like this. I will explain what is that option tomorrow. Now, let me connect to this server. Let me connect to this server. This is my deployment server. This is my deployment server. Let me connect to this. Now, I don't have a Docker. If I execute this command, I will use one more option, guys. -d. What is this -d in high level? I will tell you at high level. Tomorrow we will discuss in detail all these commands. -d stands for detached mode, background mode, detached mode or background mode. In the background, create and start the container. In background, create and start the container in the background, not interactively. So we will discuss what is that tomorrow. I don't have a Docker. If I execute this one, will it work? No. So I can install Docker whatever way I want to install. Maybe I can use this way or other way, something like this. Yesterday I done this one. I told this one, right? This way also I can do. So we are getting the script. The script is getting passed to the bash. So in the background, it is doing the same thing. It is updating the package manager. It is downloading required software to install Docker. Based on the underlying operating system, this script will work. Can I use this one in most of the Linux except Red Hat? This command? Yes. Once the Docker is installed, can I create a container out of this image? So does my application, my process will be up and running as a container in this server? So now wherever I want to deploy, can I just create a container out of that image that can be in any server? Yes. Now Docker is installed. Again, let me execute some command. What is the meaning of this one? We are getting permission denied error. What is the meaning of this one? I need to use sudo. If I don't want to use sudo, what is the solution? If I don't want to use sudo, what is the solution? Adding user to the group. So sudo user mod -a g docker current user. Now this won't reflect in the same session. I am coming out of that session, again logging into that. Now this time, as a normal user also, am I able to execute docker commands? Now if I execute this command, this image is not there locally, but do I have this image available in the registry? If I go to my registry, docker hands-on is my registry. I logged into my registry. I go to repository. This is my repository. Now, do you see, is that image pushed 8 minutes ago with this tag? It is part of that one. Now, is it going to pull that image to this server locally because it is not there locally first? Unable to find image locally. So is it pulling that image? I mean to say, is it pulling all the layers of that image to this server? Now, it is pulling and creating and starting container. All the things are happening. It is pulling the image, created a container and started the container also. Now, how to see the containers? By executing docker ps command, docker ps, docker process command. So can I see one container which is running here? Yes. So now, will I able to access using that server IP address, this server IP address, public server IP address, that public IP and that host port. I have done this one. So whatever port I used here, the first section, this is my host port, this is my container port. So why container port 80? Because this image has which software? On which that image has what software? Tomcat. So what is the port of Tomcat? 8080. Same port I mapped with my host, my server port 8080. So now can I use this 8080, that host port and my application context? Yes. Now AWS concept. Do I need to open the firewall, security group firewall for this host port to access from outside? AWS concept? Yes. Let me go to this. Let me go to this. Let me open. Let me open in the inbound rules. 8080. I am opening for everywhere, that host port. Now, is my application accessible? That is running as a container. Now, does containers help you to simplify the process of building, updating, deploying applications? And does containers are isolated from underlying machines? This is how it works. So try to do whatever I have been done today. We'll continue tomorrow, guys. We'll continue tomorrow. Try to do whatever has been discussed today. We'll continue tomorrow. So tomorrow we are going to start with commands. We will first get familiar with commands. What is image related commands? What is container related commands? We'll first familiar with all those things tomorrow. Someone was asking, sir, if the image already with that same tag image is already part of that registry, will it override? Is it anything to do with the Docker for that? Suppose I already have one package with same version. Will it override if I try to push same version again? Is it anything to do with the Docker? No. It's to do with your repositories. So in repositories, do you have policies? Allow redeploy? Yes, no kind of stuff. If you attended Nexus, if you practice Nexus properly, do you have a allow redeploy like enable, disable like that? If allow redeploy is enabled, will I able to override the existing package with same version? Can I push multiple times? Yes. But if allow redeploy is disabled, does repository will allow you to overwrite that that package with same version again? No. Same concept here also, guys. Same concept here also. It is nothing to do with the Docker. That is Artifactory's concept. Thank you. I'll continue tomorrow, guys.